pause for a moment and think back just 20 years before, let's say, any of Elon's companies were highly visible, the modern ones. These would have been crazy thoughts that a private startup could take on any things I just mentioned, from nuclear fusion to Mars colonization. These were the domains of moonshot initiatives of governments, and not just a government scale activity, but among the biggest government scale activities ever undertaken. And now it seems obvious that these new entrants, companies that didn't exist 30 years ago, are leading all of the charges in all the areas that matter. And you can't point to anything a government has done that mattered when it comes to progress. You have governments that have slowed progress. You have governments that worked on equity and trying to, avert harms. But none of them has said, "Oh, I solved the climate problem," or "I got us off gasoline," or I figured out nuclear energy." Like, no, they haven't made any progress in the last 30 years on anything. The technologists have all around us. And back to your point about the vibe or the zeitgeist or the sentiment is, oh, it's time to build. It's time to reindustrialize. This spans everything from mining to, of course, software. It's going to transform every industry. And I believe Elon's companies, specifically SpaceX and Tesla, have a large role to play in catalyzing the dreamers to dream, the investors to believe in it, and all up and down the stack, from early stage venture capitalists to public market buyers. You have billions of dollars of capital flowing into AI, into SpaceX, into Tesla in ways that were unfathomable last 30 years ago. Like by the way, a $100 million round of financing in the 90s was insanely huge. When DST did that in Facebook, it was like, what? They invested $100 million in a late stage company? Like, not even a startup, right? A late stage company. Because prior to that, no one had invested $100 million in anything. Wow. In aggregate, Webvan had raised over $100 million, but it took SoftBank many rounds of funding. And like, those were insane numbers. Nobody could envision $1 billion being invested in anything ever.
Wow.
That's a private company. And now it's a seed round for Amira's company.
I would like to announce that I'm starting a Series A right now. Okay.
Well, Series A, a seed round, a multi-billion-dollar seed round. Like, what in the world? Man.
So it's so fascinating hearing you say that, because, I felt this too. I mean, there's a reason why Elon has the following he has. I mean, I'm a huge fan of his. I worked at his company. Like, I've been following him since 2012. He just has, he's always had this magnetic energy around him, around like this, what's possible is way bigger than you think, and I'm going to prove it to you. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why he has the sort of like the cohort of people that really admire him, follow him, hate him, right? There's jealous. Just a lot of things. Yeah, they're jealous, exactly. And so it's very interesting to hear you say that he's sort of been a singular person in inspiring almost like a generation or a group of people to actually be willing to take risks and go in and actually build things. Because he's okay. So now there's going to be a compounding effect.
I'm going to add an emphatic exclamation point to what you said. Yeah. I don't think it is possible to overstate his contribution to humanity.
Really?
I've never heard a statement from anyone that says, "Oh, that overstates it." I believe he's the greatest hit of the American dream, writ large, like bar none. Immigrant comes to South Africa, changes every industry that he looks at with great success for the better. Gets us on a post-gasoline trajectory like never before. Gets us on an autonomous driving trajectory like no one else could. Will soon make humanity a multiplanetary species, which will go down in the long, multi-thousand-year history of humanity as one of the major accomplishments of humanity.
Saves free speech in the West.
Well, exactly. Well, that's an important one too. Yeah, and always just getting started.
Holy shit. I mean, it really is, and it's easy to lose sight of that. Somebody like myself, I follow his trajectory. Like a lot of the things we cover on this channel is Musk industry, and it's sometimes it's like, in my head, I'm like just used to seeing that. I'm used to seeing Elon saying, major problem, we're going to fix it. And then I'm like, oh, of course he's going to fix it. Obviously, he's going to be late, and he's going to be very way too ambitious on the timelines. But that's part of his process. It's like he's trying to bring the future forward faster, right? Inspiring people, inspiring his staff to go as fast as they can to make stuff happen. So that's really, really, that's just awesome to hear, honestly. And I think the compounding effect of that, the one thesis I had coming out of Tesla when I left the company in 21 was I was surrounded by so many talented people. I mean, it was unbelievable. Just I'd be very fortunate to be around really smart people. Before Tesla, I was at a pet food distributor company, biggest one in the United States. I learned so much from that executive group. I'm like, man, these people are smart. Then I went to Tesla. I'm like, holy shit. Whoa, my God. And then my thesis was, what happens when this talent starts propagating the world? Like, what happens when these guys and girls start doing their own thing? And all the people that are inspired by what Elon is doing and his businesses, what happens when they start doing their own thing, right? And it seems like now those guys and gals are starting to build. They're starting they're starting to go all in on their stuff.
Yeah, someone should trace the whole family tree of kind of like they did back in the day from Fairchild and Intel and other companies coming from the early days of the semiconductor industry. Then you have the PayPal mafia, which is all the people that were in that concentration of incredible talent, like all the companies they've started. It's astounding. Right? That one's been traced. Yeah. Then you have now new generations of SpaceX and Tesla alum that are doing all kinds of things. Like, for example, Commonwealth Fusion, I think, has more people from SpaceX than any other place, and it's like that talent pool and that. Yeah. Wanting that like people will describe these work experiences as the toughest of their life, yet the most rewarding. Right. Yeah. And it used to be the same with Steve Jobs, by the way. I worked briefly at Apple and Next, and I got to tell you, it was the same sentiment there for folks who work directly with Steve Jobs, not the large bureaucracy that Apple's become.
Sure.
And it really is invigorating for the best and the brightest. Like you want to work with people who are capable, who are changing the world for the better, who have, by the way, that mission. By the way, every one of Elon's companies, you notice, he has a bold mission that every employee can state, every customer, every partner, and it's something you aspire to. And then he chains back to the present, and therefore we have to do X, Y, Z, and actually iterate with customers and be pragmatic. Yes, but we all know it. And that has a fascinating impact as you scale an organization. Let's say the Tesla size today, which is you can orient a organization around that prioritization more easily than you can something kind of indirect, like maximize shareholder value. Like, who the hell cares about that? Let organizations say, I'm here to maximize shareholder value. And then they can debate. Almost certainly what will maximize it this month or this quarter is in opposition to what will maximize it over 10 years.
Yeah.
And therefore, you're going to have all kinds of differing opinions on what's a priority and what's not. Whereas it's SpaceX and Tesla, I got to tell you, being on the board of both companies, it is really clear. There's this resonance to the activity of people that says, let's get this vehicle out so that we can get the next vehicle out, because that's the march of the master plan. And we all get it to the goal of no longer burning oil and gas. Like, wouldn't that be amazing?
100%. It's like everyone's bought in, and I can speak to that very directly. Just I was on the service distribution side. I wasn't even in the manufacturing side, and that culture was there. Like, everybody was like, we need to make sure everyone's cars are fixed and on the road, so that they're happy with owning a Tesla, so they can tell their friends to go buy a Tesla, because the more Teslas and EVs are on the road, the better it's going to be for the climate long term, and the better it's going to be for, like, one of the things that always gets sort of missed in this whole discussion. It's also great for national security, you guys. Like, it's like moving all the supply chains here to the States. It's giant.
We're spending like an insane amount of money per day, multiple billions per day, to nations that want to take us down when we were more dependent on oil and gas. Yeah. The supply chain interruption risk. You see that in Europe now. Oh my God, Russian gas. Like this, it is so obviously better for a nation to not emit carbon, burning fossil fuels, geopolitically. Yeah. And like, the sooner we can get over ourselves and rapidly ramp back up nuclear, which, God, if we'd only done that 60 years ago and never gotten to coal. I mean, think about that, by the way, the alternate history. If the early environmental movement hadn't embraced nuclear energy in a really ignorant way, it's something to be scared of, because of, there's a number of reasons why. I'm reading this book, Rad Future, that goes into a bunch of this. But like, imagine instead we're like, no, let's look at the data. It's the safest, cleanest sort of energy we could do. If we just hadn't switched to coal from nuclear, the majority of greenhouse gases in the air today caused by humanity would not be there.
Wow.
Literally, there would be no discussion about global warming. There would be no worry about greenhouse gases. Over half of it is because of that singular decision to move away from nuclear and embrace coal instead, right? And so, don't get me started.
That's crazy.
We can end that, and we just need to do it.